They told me the screams were never real, that no children ever cried there, but then explain why people still hear them. I never believe stories people only told at night. The kind of stories that make you lower your voice without knowing why. Stories about places that are gone, places that were erased, not closed. That's what I used to think. But there is one name I stopped saying out loud years ago. Gore Orphanage. I didn't grow up near it. I never saw the building standing, and yet it feels like I remember it. Like a place you've never visited, but somehow recognizes you. They said it was just an orphanage, a temporary home for children no one else wanted. But no one ever spoke about it during the day, only at night. Only in whispers, and always with the same look. Fear. At first, they explained it in simple words. An accident. A fire. That's all they ever said. The orphanage stood on the edge of town, far enough to forget about, close enough to make people uneasy. Late one night, the building caught fire. No one agrees on how it started. Some blamed faulty wiring. Others said it was an old heater that never should have been used. By the time help arrived, the flames had already taken control. The records were unclear. Names missing, numbers that didn't match. Some said all the children were evacuated. Others said not everyone made it out, and that's where the stories begin to change. Because after the fire, people didn't just talk about what was lost, they talked about what stayed. The next morning, people noticed something was wrong, not with the ruins, but with the explanations. The official report said the building was empty, that the children had been relocated weeks before the fire. But some neighbors remembered seeing lights inside the orphanage just days earlier. A woman who lived nearby said she heard coughing that night. Not screams, coughing, like someone trying not to be heard. A former staff member claimed there were more children than the record showed, that some names were never written down. Temporary, unregistered, forgotten. When asked to repeat her statement, she refused. Others changed their stories over time. Dates shifted, details disappeared, and every version had one thing in common. No one could explain why people kept returning to the site long after the ruins were cleared. They said it was curiosity, but no one stays that long just to be curious. The land was cleared months later. What remained was buried. What couldn't be buried was ignored. They said the orphanage was gone, that nothing was left to return to. But people still did. At night, cars would stop near the empty lot, engines off, lights dark. No one talked about what they were listening for. Some claimed they heard footsteps where no building stood anymore. Others described a sound that didn't belong outside. A low cry, not loud, not desperate, tired, like a child who had already learned no one was coming. Police reports dismissed the complaints. Wind, animals, imagination. But the calls kept coming, and they all described the same thing. Not screams, voices. Years later, someone decided the land was safe again. They turned it into a seasonal camp. Tents, fires, laughter that didn't last long. During the day, everything felt normal. Too normal. But at night, the counselors noticed the children wouldn't sleep. They said it felt wrong, like being watched without seeing anyone. Some kids woke up crying. Not from nightmares, but because they heard someone calling their name. Soft, close. One counselor tried to calm them, telling them it was just the wind. Until one night, he heard it too. A voice near the trees. Low, young. Asking a question no one answered. Are we still here? After that night, the camp never filled again. They said it was for safety reasons. They didn't say what the counselors refused to talk about. Years after the camp closed, someone tried to document what happened. Not to prove anything, just to understand it. Old interviews surfaced. Audio tapes, short recordings made late at night. Most of them were unusable. Static, wind, silence. But a few were different. In one recording, a former counselor speaks calmly at first. He describes footsteps, voices. Then his tone changes. He stops mid-sentence, listens, and quietly says, "That's not outside." The tape ends seconds later. Another recording captures nothing unusual. Until the final moment, a faint sound in the background. Not crying, breathing, slow, close to the microphone. The person recording never spoke about it again. Some of the tapes were lost. Others were erased. They said it was to protect privacy, but no one could explain why the originals were never returned. Authorities eventually came. Reports, documents, forms signed and filed away. They examined the ruins. They interviewed the neighbors. They counted names. Everything was supposed to make sense. Everything was supposed to end. But the investigators noticed inconsistencies. One report said all the children were accounted for. Another mentioned missing names. Some pages were blank, others torn. They asked questions nobody answered clearly. They found files that didn't match, dates shifted, details vanished, and when they tried to speak publicly, their words were carefully chosen. Vague, non-committal. One investigator whispered to a colleague, "They never left." Not really. No one published that. No one confirmed it. And those who knew stayed silent. Years passed. The land changed hands. New buildings went up. New families moved in. And still, the stories didn't die. People began noticing strange noises. Late at night. From the woods nearby, a neighbor reported faint cries. Others heard whispers. Not words, just sounds. Soft. Close. Persistent. One man recorded it on his phone. He played it back the next day. He said the hairs on his neck stood up. No children lived there. No reason for any sound. Yet the recordings captured something. Something small. Something patient. And every time someone spoke about it, they said the same thing. It's still there. Some dared to go closer. Explorers. Teenagers. Reporters, curious for proof. They spoke of shapes moving in the dark. Not human, but not completely unformed. Fleeting. Watching. One girl described standing by the trees, feeling eyes on her back. She turned. Nothing. But the sound of footsteps followed. No one else was there. A young man tried to record it. The camera captured nothing visible. But when he listened later, soft breathing echoed in the recording. Long. Measured. Close. No one stayed long. And those who returned refused to talk about what they saw, except in whispers. Late at night. Today, the land looks empty. Neat houses. Quiet streets. No sign of the orphanage remains. And yet, the stories never end. Sometimes, late at night, people passing by the woods say they feel watched. A presence. Patient. Waiting. They hear soft breathing. Faint whispers. Questions that go unanswered. And those who have returned swear they still hear it. A voice, low and careful, that seems to follow you home. Are we still here? No one can tell you why. No one can explain it, and maybe you don't want them to.